Every man has his heroes, and every life is made up of stories. Heroic Stories is a series from heroicmen.org to find out why some men choose the harder path in life, even when it means losing everything, how they survived, and who they are today. These men seem heroic to us, even if they don't call themselves that. They seem to have an extra strength in their system, extra grit to battle doubt and find purpose. All of these men are seeking divine friendship with God, and they all believe in building up faith, building up men, and building up our future. Sponsored by CatholicSpeakers.com and hosted by Dominic from Heroic Men, get the mindsets, the scars, and the playbooks that these men have earned the hard way. Heroism isn't born, it's made, and these are their stories. Hi friends, and welcome back to Heroic Stories. Today I'm joined by John Scott. John, it's good to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So we get right into things in this show. First question, to get to meet the man behind the myth or the legend or all the activity and the stuff that you get up to. We're here to talk about heroism. So the stories that animate you, the stories that motivate, orient you, how you sort of pull your way through life, make sense of things. So first question is a story of heroism that absolutely lights you up. And when you think of that story, you go, that's probably the most heroic thing I've ever heard of. What is that for you?
It's funny. I was just talking to this about my kids the other day. In Canada, it's in November, we wear poppies to remember the veterans. And more specifically, for me anyways, it's on D-Day when they stormed the beaches of Normandy. And it's just, my kids were just pinging me with questions the other day about it. And the idea of, literally diving off of a boat and storming beaches, and then there's a 100-foot sand dune in front of you that you have to scale, and just getting bombed and having no real hope to survive. And then more specifically, the medics who were there, who didn't have any kind of guns to fight back for the most part, and they're there just trying to help people and save people. So that's the idea of heroism to me. It's I don't think I could do it. I'll be completely frank, to get off that boat and to just dive into the ocean and jump up those massive hills. It's very, very intimidating to think about.
No kidding. Why does that specific story speak to you? I mean, there's lots of military stories and so on throughout history. Is there some particular connection to that?
I've always been a fan of World War II, and I've always, learned about it in school. And I have no members of my family, as far as I know, who were in military service. I'm sure they were, but nothing that resonates with me. Is just the picture of it, the grand scale of it. I've read books on it. I've researched it as a kid and even as an adult. I just think it's fascinating, going up against that insurmountable force and that just wall of just guns and artillery, and just saying, we're going for it. Like, this is it. We have to do this, or else evil will win. There's no other way. We have to, sacrifice ourselves. So it's just something we'll never experience in our lifetime. It just was one of those moments where we have to do this. There's no other way to get through this, and let's go for it. And that was the best idea they had. So I don't know. I can never wrap my head around how scary it would have been on that boat in the approach, and you're just getting shelled, and it's just like, oh man, okay, now get off. It's just like, no thanks, I'll stay.
No kidding. You yourself have had a massive sports career. If people are watching the video, you've got wonderful stuff hanging around behind you. Everything you just described right there sounds like the kind of thing that would be running through your mind when you're in a game, I imagine. So yeah, what goes through your mind on that front?
Well, it pales in comparison. It's not life or death, but yeah, in the NHL, it was very stressful, and especially the position that I played, where I was oftentimes, getting into fights and getting into altercations, and you think about that, and you want to win, and you want to do your best and not get embarrassed and lose a fight. The worst thing you can do is lose a fight, and then on top of that, lose it in front of 20,000 people. It's never fun. So it's a little bit. I can use that in my life, and I think I've overcome those fears in a certain way, whether it's preparation or just saying go for it. Let's see how this goes.
Okay, well let's move on to our next one, which is, what's one of the darkest decisions that you've ever had to make, and how did you get through that?
Yeah, the darkest decision. It's funny, the word dark, you can make that in a bunch of different ways, but the hardest decisions I think I had to make was becoming Catholic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was a long time, because my wife was a cradle Catholic, and we married. And one of her contingencies was, we're going to raise our kids in the faith. And I said, sure, that's fine. And then I started going to church with her, and she was not pressuring me to become Catholic, but it was such a
What was your affiliation, or what group were you with at the time? Were
nothing.
you
I was an
nothing?
absolute non-religious, not a nun. Like I did. It's not that I
Right.
didn't believe in a higher power. I wasn't
Hmm.
exposed to anything as a child. So I think the hard part about it was I knew the immensity of the decision, to the point where I went through RCIA 3 times. The first
Really?
2 times I just didn't buy in.
Okay.
And it took me a long time, 10 years, to really like get it. And I knew it was a huge decision, and I think that was my guardian angel saying, don't just do this haphazardly to make your wife happy.
Right. Right.
And I really had to, read about the martyrs, read about the saints, read about the church history and the fathers and all the, the
Hmm.
things that go along with it. And it was hard, because I think, and this is me maybe generalizing, I think most people would just say, yeah, just I'll be baptized, whatever. Here you go, honey, let's just move past this. For some reason, I could not do that. And I was offered to be baptized twice, after my class, and I just said, it doesn't seem right. So that was the hardest decision, was to enter the church. And I'm glad I waited, because it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever done. Like, it was fantastic, and I'll never regret doing it that route, even though it took me 10 years to get there.
Yeah. I really appreciate the honesty. Seems like to yourself, to your conscience, the fact that you
Yeah.
couldn't fake it. What was it? What was your sense looking at this faith, this religion that she was practicing, and what was it that was holding you back? Like, why wasn't it connecting for you?
And it wasn't that it wasn't connecting. It's just I don't think I knew enough. And bless my wife, she took her faith seriously. So if she would have
Hmm.
been whimsy about it, and we would
Hmm.
have just gone to church and whatever, it was just something we checked that box and move on, I don't think I would have took that much stock into it. But we were able to go to her home parish, and everybody's really reverent there, and that stuck with me. It's like, why are these people kneeling, and why are we staying around after church to do Thanksgivings, and why are we saying this rosary, and why are we doing these things?
Hmm.
And I wanted to know why
Right.
all these hundreds and thousands of people are doing what they're doing. So if it
Hmm.
was just, a random Sunday, well, let's just get this out of the way quick before we go do other things, then I wouldn't have, taken the thought and the care to
Hmm.
kind of figure out what
Yeah.
is happening.
Yeah. Usually, when people talk about these kind of conversions and it being difficult, it's because they had to either, let go of things, or there was a change in who they were, or the people they were networked with, or their family, or something.
Yeah.
So, what was the thing that put you over the edge, if there was a moment or something you learned? And then why was it so difficult? Or what
Well,
made it difficult?
it's like I grew up playing hockey, and I think the typical hockey environment, that the hockey player is not, someone you want to look up to per se. It's not someone I would point my kids toward and say that's who you want to be. Generalizing, right, across the
Mhm.
board, but there are obviously outliers, people who are very, very good. But I was a part of that group where it's just like, we play hockey, we fight, we drink, we chase women, those sorts of things. And that didn't jive with the Catholic faith, right? It just doesn't, it's oil and water. So the more I learned about what I should be doing and how I should be living my life, it contrasted with how I was living my life. And so it was maybe a sense of, not yet.
Mhm.
This is kind of fun. This is my life. This is my career. I'm making
Mhm.
money doing this. Do I have the guts to swim against the current, so to
Mhm.
speak? And I slowly but surely, even though I didn't get baptized till the end of my career, I would go against the things that were happening. And it's funny how things work, where as soon as one person says, you know what, I'm not going to do that, maybe I'll just stay home. And then
Mhm.
one more, and then two more, and three more. And then it's not as hard for other guys to do that. But it was difficult at the beginning to kind of go against the norm, for sure.
Yeah. You said something interesting there. You said you usually would go against the norm. What was in it? What was in you, or story, or your upbringing, or something that formed you to become that kind of a man? Somebody who would go against norms.
I don't know if it was just me not caring what other people
Okay.
thought. I really don't. But I was
Okay.
never someone to fall into the trends. I got to get that pair of shoes or that shirt or that whatever. I never really bought into that. And I was just, and I hate, inflating my ego, but I was always a natural kind of protector. And I just tried to help the people that needed help. And I think maybe that played a part in me just having that fortitude to be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And that's not good. Let's go against that. So yeah, not caring and, being tough, I guess, were the two things that helped.
Oh, you need that, I imagine, for everything you've been through. So, who are your heroes then? People that you look to either? They could be in history or, literature or maybe people you know.
Uh, Well, in the faith, I know this is easy. With St. Sebastian, I always pray to him. I think he was fantastic. And Louis Martin, I have a gaggle of kids. So those two I always pray to. They're my guys. And then
Saint
it's funny.
Sebastian being like the dad who's just dealing with everything coming at him, or
Well, the patron saint of athletes, and I just loved his
okay,
story, how he went against the Romans and he just held his ground, even though they said, don't do that. And he's like, I'm going to do it. And they killed him for it. So it was just honorable for him to do that. I went to his tomb a couple of years ago in Rome, and man, that was very powerful. Like just to be
really?
there in the catacombs was pretty epic. But the hero of mine, it's funny, it didn't take grip or hold until later on in my life was my dad. I know that's kind of a cliche answer, but we didn't have the
It's not
closest
actually.
relationship.
Yeah.
But growing up, and I kind of resented him for it for a long time until I realized why. It's because he worked his tail off and he was always gone. I would wake up and he'd be gone, and I would get home from school and he wouldn't get home until 6, 7 p.m. at night. And then the only times I would see him was when he would drive me to hockey practice or to a game. And other than that, it was kind of just like, then he was a great dad, but we didn't have that, love you, dad, love you, son, like that sort of relationship. And
Hmm.
it didn't kind of sink in until later on in life. I'm like, man, he did love me. Like he did a lot for me, and he busted his hump to get me to 5 a.m. practice. And hockey's not cheap. And, he was pinching pennies and rubbing quarters together to kind of make things go. And I still had skates and gloves and helmets and played on the best team. So that was, that formed me to who I am today and how I try to raise my kids. And it didn't click, until I
Hmm.
was 35, 40 years old, where I was like, damn, like that, what a guy.
Wow.
So
Wow.
probably him.
Do you have a favorite story from his life? Something that you feel captures what you appreciate most about him?
Uh, a couple, I guess. So I'm Canadian.
Hmm.
So I grew up in Edmonton, and there was a big tornado rip through our trail. We lived in a trailer park. We didn't have much money. And so one storm, a tornado took our trailer out, and we had nowhere to go. My dad had three kids, and that's probably, shocking where you don't have a lot of money. He just was a construction guy, didn't make a ton of money. And he kind of swallowed his pride and said, we're going to go move in with my mom. And so we moved all the way from Western Canada to Eastern Ontario, and we lived with his mom for 2 or 3 years while he scraped together money to buy a house, and he sold his prize, motorcycle to kind of put the final payment down. And it just started our life, even though we had absolutely nothing. Like everything was ripped out. And yeah,
Wow.
living with his mom when he's 30 some years old with three kids cannot, it's a hit to the pride. But he said, I have to provide for my family. So it was, looking at it now, like I said, as a father, I don't know how you could do that, to just humble
Hmm.
yourself to say, I have nothing. Can you please help me? So that, yeah,
Wow.
that's a huge one.
You mentioned hitting about 35. It's funny. I think I hit around right around the same time too, and started reappreciating
Right.
people in my life. What happened at around 35?
Well, I retired from hockey, and we had just had our fourth child, and I had a completely life transitional moment where, yeah, then I got baptized and I had to figure out what to do post hockey. And I went from being, I don't know if you can relate, but I was hockey. That's all I was known for 30 years. Like in school, in university, in professional ranks. That's it. You saw me, it was like, oh, there's Johnny plays hockey. That was stripped away from me. And now it's like, okay, who am I? How do I navigate the next 35 years of my life plus? And it was a big moment trying to figure out, where do I go? And thank goodness that I had my wife, I had my kids, but I had my faith to say, okay, this is probably more important than who I was and what I was doing. And just, it was a godsend, honestly, moving away from that, because now I'm way more happier than I've ever been, doing some pretty cool stuff, what I was doing. But now it's just, I'm so much more just at peace and fulfilled with my life. It's kind of funny how it works.
Can you say a little more on that? Finding that peace, that fulfillment. Like, what does that mean?
Just being content with what you have and knowing what's important. I used to think, and I'm sure everybody has this story, but I thought making the NHL, I was going to be super happy. Millions of dollars, whatever you want. I had it all. And you get there and you look around and you go, not so great. You're kind of let down a little bit. And so you want more and more and more. And then you still can't fill that hole. And you're around, like, I was around celebrities and professional athletes, and I would like private jets and all these things. I had that, I lived that. And then it's still, you're still not that happy. And it affects your marriage, and your kids aren't happy. They never see you. And it just, you still have regular issues. And then I retire and I'm like, okay, I have no income stream, but I got baptized. And then you start to dig into the faith and realize what is the cause of true happiness. And I went from having friends who were like pro athletes and celebrities and these people, higher echelon people who I thought were my friends. And then now I hang out with like janitors and electricians, and I'm so happy, which is bizarre. And I make a fraction of what I ever did. And I just, I have 8 kids and I'm changing diapers and I'm running after them. And it's just like, I couldn't imagine being any more happier. Yes, it's still difficult, but
Mhm.
I know, what the end game is. And I'm actually building up currency to try to get to heaven one day. So that's kind of the end
Right.
game for me.
With everything then that you're up to, entire family, the work that you're doing, you're a speaker, and then everything else that you're trying to fit into your own life, maintaining a strong spiritual life and a relationship with God and all of that can often feel impossible for a lot of men. How are you making it work? What are your habits, your go-to prayers? How are you making that work?
Well, again, it's if you're not married, you should try it. My wife makes sure, and I think that's why marriage is such a beautiful thing. She makes sure that I'm on the straight and narrow because she knows that I'm the head of the household, and where I go, everybody follows me. So she's the one who keeps me honest. And if I stray, if I'm not doing my prayers or I'm just kind of lacking, she'll, ping me and say, "Let's go." But for me personally, what I do is faith comes first. And I have lots of opportunities to do events and appearances and stuff because of my hockey career. And I have to turn them down because we have non-negotiables in our family where it's like, okay, we do obviously do mass. My wife and kids go to mass daily. I do 4 or 5 days a week. We do rosaries. We're doing the Angelus. We do morning prayers. Any chance that we get to pray together, we try to take advantage of it. And then we eat together. We sit down and we have a meal together every single night as a family. And I feel like that's lost in today's society where everybody's trying to catch the
Mhm.
carrot, the rat race, and everybody's trying to get money and stuff. And we completely unplugged. And I know we had the benefit of some money to be able to do that, but my wife homeschools. We got rid of our TV. We just completely put all our eggs in our kids' basket and our faith's basket. And so far, it's been fantastic. I think all our kids are really great kids, and our marriage has never been stronger. And yeah, we have issues with money sometimes, and we have issues with life and this, that, and the other thing, but it's all part of the game, right? It's all part of the
Yeah.
journey, and
Yeah.
it's been working so far. But yeah, I do have my non-negotiables where I do an adoration hour every week. I do a rosary every day. I try to say the Angelus if I can catch it at 12 and 6. I'm at home eating with my family. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about those things because I feel
Mhm.
like those are the core of our kind of family.
Yeah. Amazing. For you yourself as a person with your own interests and so on, how do you balance or I don't know if there is a balance, but what are things that you do that revive you? So I'm hearing massive commitment to your family, and then there's the work that you do, and then there's the prayer habits that you've got put in place, and then but then there's also the things that you enjoy doing. And if I think this is something a lot of men will do is you will either only do the things that you like and nothing else, or you will not do anything that you genuinely enjoy
Yeah,
doing that bring you life, and you're all in on just something until you burn out. How do you make sense of that? Or
it's
what do
yeah.
you do?
No, I think you're right. You have to have that balance. And there was a time where I went all in on the faith, and I did get burned out. And I was like, this sucks. No, I'm sorry to use that language, but I was just like, I have to have some balance. And I have a great group of friends who are all Catholic, thanks be to God. But we have poker nights. I play hockey with my priests and my buddies every Sunday night. I do a rink at my house, and my kids are out there skating around, and we just
That's
balance it
amazing.
with fun stuff, And it can't just, it can, but I'm not that pious enough to do that. I have to have an outlet to do other things because it does get overwhelming. I mean, I don't want to be scrupulous, so I still want to live a regular life. You know what I mean, and be a
Right.
normal guy. So yeah, and I go out and have drinks with my buddies, and we golf, and we do these things. But it's not all the time. I probably golf 4 times a year tops.
Right.
But when I do, it's fun, and we have a
Hmm.
cigar and we have some bourbon, and it is what it is. We're not getting drunk, but we still like to relax and have fun. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's. I'm glad you said that because it's important to have a balance in life. You can't just be all in on one unless you're like Padre Pio. Then you're
Right. Right.
fine.
Right.
But if you're a regular guy, I think it's important to have a balance in your life.
Yeah, I like how some dad once told me something like, "Hey, you didn't take what is it? Vows of prayer. You didn't take a commitment to be a monk, a
Hmm.
married monk. You became a married man, and men have lots of different things to contribute to each other, and so on."
And to
So,
society, I feel like it's sorry to cut you off. I feel like it's
yeah,
good
go
to
ahead.
just be out there
Agreed.
and to engage with people to be like, yeah, hey, I'm Catholic. I'm a normal guy. I'm fun to be around, and just show people that yeah, you're happy. Because if it, I don't know, that's a whole other topic where it's like we have to get out there and show
Mhm.
people like we're not these weird Catholics. We're like just normal, happy people, and people will are drawn to that. So
I think
whatever.
so too. Yeah, people doing normal, happy things. Years ago, I remember once seeing it was a question in a Facebook group, and people were like, "If you had $1 million, what would you do to advance the cause of the kingdom?" And I thought, "Oh, it's an interesting challenge. I'll ask you that in a second." And the response that I was working through at the time was, "Well, I'll take 10% of that, and I'm gonna put that towards local monastery or a convent to start 24-hour adoration. And the rest of it, I want to find all of the young people in a given parish who are doing cool stuff with their lives, and then platform them."
Mm.
Not from a faith standpoint specifically, but more to show because I am animated by my faith, I am now doing things that are positive and good and exciting, and I'm excited to be alive. I know that was my thought 10 years ago. And I still think it's a pretty good one. I'm curious,
Oh
if you had
yeah.
$1 million to do something like that, yeah, where would you go with that?
Uh, this is just me and our diocese. I would put the majority of it into vocations. I feel like it's just lacking, and I just think kids have a calling for it, especially nowadays. You can kind of see the pendulum swinging back as far as vocations, and you're getting good, solid priests out there. And I just feel like give them some like a nice sweet house or some like benefit. And obviously the benefit is being a priest and you're religious, but like just give them some cool digs or revamp a school or just really make it alluring for a young teenage boy to go into vocations, because I just think there's a need for that, especially in our diocese where we need priests big time. I think that's not abnormal in the United States. So yeah, vocations, and then yeah, donate. And we have an adoration chapel at our church that's perpetual, so it's a beautiful thing. We already have that, so I can't. That's a great answer, though. I think that's another thing that more churches should strive to do is have that perpetual 24-hour adoration. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Amazing. Well, you may have started answering my next and last question for you,
Oh,
which
good.
is apart from God and your family, in all the work that you do, who do you want to be a hero for in the sense of who do you want to put heroic like sacrifice and effort into making an impact or helping?
It's the cliche answer is my kids, but I'm not going to do that. I've been blessed to be able to do these talks, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't I haven't been burnt out by them, and I don't think I don't know. I think I do serve a purpose where I have this platform, like you mentioned, for the kids, but to get my message out there, and I just feel like I want to impact the people I come across with, specifically kids, like younger
Mhm.
kids, teenagers. I think I can relate to them a little bit just because of my hockey career. And gosh, if I can change some kids' lives, and put them on a straight and narrow, I've had not enough, but some feedback where it's like, gosh, like it's amazing when you do impact somebody's life, how powerful it is, because you do like I'm just a normal, you know, dude, and so are you. But if you can somehow impact somebody's lives and doing these talks, I've been able to talk to thousands of people, and it's just been really kind of neat to see the results of that. So that would be my wish, is to just keep doing that, and not for financial stuff. I think I have this, you can see behind me, this platform, all this hockey stuff, so people know me, and if I get the opportunity, say, okay, you know what, this is what I believe in, and I think this is important for people to hear it. So
Agreed. How would you and it's a massive conversation, I understand, but how would you diagnose what young people are up against, especially the ones that you're paying attention to, the ones that you want to work for or serve? What are they up against and struggling with?
how long now, like you said, it's massive. The biggest thing is just pornography, I think, and then society as a whole kind of just either downplaying the importance of their faith or outright just making fun of it, I think
Mhm.
is a huge issue. And then having the courage to live your faith and say that you are, a good, upstanding Christian Catholic person is tough, because everybody wants you to be, you know, a philanderer and a womanizer and cool, and I have cars and clothes and this and that and the other thing, and
Hmm.
it's just the opposite of what you should be focused on. And it's so ingrained. I In my talks I talk about the role models we have, versus who we used to have, and it's just a shame the role models these kids have. When you turn on the TV, it's like, who do they have to look up to, right? Like, there's no one in politics, there's no one in sports, there's no one in movies, there's nobody anywhere for them to look up to on a large scale.
Right.
And so it's just a shame. And I think there is, a need there for these kids to go. And, Charlie Kirk was the one. The kids looked up to him, and obviously what happened to him. So it's just, there's a need. And I think the kids want that, because they,
Mhm.
they realize what they're doing isn't good.
Right, right. So then, as a dad speaking to mostly the other dads listening to this show, what would be your recommendations to them? What are things that they can do or should look at changing, or how to connect with other dads perhaps to start pushing back or trying to solve this, around the country in their homes or in their parishes or so on? What are some recommendations that you offer?
Well, it starts in the house, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. We got rid of all technology, and that was difficult. We unplugged everything. We have no TVs. When we get in our house, we try to put our phones away. Obviously, it's impossible, but they're away. We have covenant eyes on our computer, so anytime they use a computer, it's protected and the kids are safe. And the hard part is we limit who the kids hang out with, and it stinks. But you know, you can't unsee something. And I have 8 daughters, and so I feel like I have even more pressure, because girls, they're so pure and they're just beautiful creatures, and I don't want them to be tainted. And you can't unsee pornography or a picture or anything. And so it stinks for the kid, because they think you're just being too heavy-handed. But at the end of the day, if I can keep my 13-year-old still, innocent and a kid, and not caring about, how much makeup she has, or this, that, and the other thing, or what Taylor Swift is doing, I think I'm doing a good job. And so far, like, my 13-year-old is still a kid, and she's very smart and very bright and very innocent, but just super smart also. So yeah, that would be my thing, is to just I know it's tough, but unplug, man. Just get unplug as best as you can.
So now I've got to ask, last question, 30 seconds. When did you start unplugging, and then what prompted that? And then what's been the experience of, for yourself and then as a family,
We
of
unplugged
living like that?
4 years ago. We unplugged. We sold our house and moved into a small little shack house, 1,500 square feet, and we just thought, let's do it. And the immediate impact was, it was difficult. It was super hard, because now, instead of just being able to turn on a show or a movie, you have kids, and we had 8 kids. So that was the hard part, adjusting to that. And then the benefit was, my kids read, my kids go outside, they still get bored, but when they're bored, I can say, go play with your sisters, go color, go read, go do this, that, and the other. We still put on a Disney movie every once in a while, pre 1990, obviously. But, for
Sure.
the most part, it's really forced my kids to go outside. And it's been a beautiful thing.
Thanks for joining us. If this story connected with you, send it to someone. And if you want to chat with us about anything that we've said, send us a message at heroicmen.org/stories. Our partner at CatholicSpeakers.com has built the easiest way to book powerful Catholic speakers for your men's event. They are the #1 resource worldwide for event organizers and Catholic speakers. Book easily, confidently, and ask for several grants to support ministry to men. Visit heroicmen.org/speakers today. Come and share your journey in the Heroic Brotherhood, our online community for Catholic men like you. Get the app with the best Catholic media for men, including Heroic Men's original series, Be a Man. It's all free, because an alliance of donors already paid it forward for you. Stand with us. Let's build the future of Catholic men. Will you pay it forward? $5 a month pays it forward for 5 men. Visit Heroic Men to stand with us. Because men like us, we leave no man behind. Visit heroicmen.org today.